Hi everybody, this is Jordan. We're here for the third episode of 10-Minute Motivation, where I will interview a student at Vanderbilt who is killing it, kicking butt, taking names, and we'll talk about how they've been able to achieve what they've achieved while they're at school, why they've enjoyed their college experience, and the lessons that they can bring to you all who are just starting college or who are in high school and beginning to get into that process. So, with me today on request from Taryn Denny is the amazing, wonderful Low Pack. So thank you so much for agreeing to do this. This was really great. And I'm glad we were able to set this up and everything. So I'll just start off by quickly asking how you and Taryn know each other and why you think you would say, you gotta talk to Lo, because the way he described it to me was election committee stuff. So I'd love for you to elaborate on that.
So one of the things I'm involved in on campus is VSG, which is Vanderbilt Student Government, and in that I'm a part of the Elections Commission, so I'm the chair for that, which is basically trying to provide a safe kind of election space so that every student feels like their vote is kind of heard and respected, but they also have kind of that freedom to do that without external pressures that might be kind of influencing one's ability kind of for that. And so Taryn was kind of came into my circle there. He's just like such a great light, I think, on campus, on the commons especially. He just has a really great outlook in terms of seeing everything, I think, with a grain of salt, which I really, really appreciate. Yeah.
That's awesome. So what do you do on campus now? What is your senior year looking like, and how's it shaping up?
I guess I would kind of categorize all my extracurricular activities into kind of the theme of caring and creating a culture of care. Particularly, I would say that mental health and kind of looking at what that looks like in particular student groups hasn't really been a conversation that we've had until recently. With a lot of things that happened last semester, and then also coming into the semester with the kind of institutional changes with like the new Center for Student Wellbeing and such. I think kind of being a part of the activism movement that occurred before the semester, so last year, and creating kind of that space and that kind of that conversation for what mental health looks like for students. And then kind of seeing that through has been really cool. So this year I am a peer guide for the CSW, which is kind of like an inaugural kind of cohort that tries to provide kind of peer-to-peer kind of motivational interviewing kind of support for students who might come to the new office. So kind of involvement in that. I'm kind of still with the Hidden Doors kind of circle as the mental health co-chair, and then kind of like one of my I guess continuing activities all 4 years has been with Mosaic, which is like the multicultural student recruitment program. And what I love about Mosaic is that it really tries to focus on equity, which I think is on this campus. We tend to solely see diversity in kind of a black or white kind of component or kind of frame. And so seeing how students who are Mosaic students really cross into Greek life, they are a part of VSG, they're also part of like the Multicultural Leadership Council. You have people from all circles who kind of have that same kind of core value for kind of inclusion, which is kind of really unique and also kind of a beautiful concept because you have these students here for that purpose.
That's awesome. So you're very passionate about mental health.
Right.
What are some ways that you think we can all improve our mental health on college campuses? Because like you said, this last year we had a couple of campus shocks when it came to really becoming aware of the mental health situation we have here. What are some ways that you would suggest people can improve their mental health, and how do you implement some of those practices yourself?
Sure. I would say that the biggest kind of challenge I think a lot of Vanderbilt students face is kind of that almost, I guess, weight of having to be perfect, or kind of that image of having to have everything put together, having X amount of internships, or being involved in X, Y, and Z kind of organizations. And I would say that from what I've kind of experienced in my own kind of time here, really being honest with yourself has really helped me in terms of kind of seeing where I am, and also seeing where I am in place to community in relative kind of sense there. I would say we all kind of have this understanding that we have to be completely whole in order to help others, which is completely like untrue.
Really?
Because I think also as RA, I think I've been able to connect more with students or been more accessible or more genuine in my interactions by being really real with people, saying like these are things that I'm going through, and kind of having that kind of a human approach, because we're all human when it comes down to it,
Yeah.
right? And so we go through the
Absolutely.
same things, and so being able to support each other in that kind of human, authentic way, I think gives more support than anything else. And really doing kind of life together is kind of how you really build that. So I think in terms of, to answer the kind of the latter half of your question, which is how I take care of myself, is really just surrounding myself with people who kind of really try to strive to be their and live their most authentic self every day. Which means, you know, whether it be going towards heartbreak and being very, you know, I guess acknowledging that there are hardships in this life that we go through, and being really honest and vocal about that, or being around people who understand that there's a lot of hurt and hope to like support and kind of heal that too. I think just really finding those spaces and kind of those people who really kind of understand kind of where we're at, but also try to continue creating kind of that culture of mutual support.
That's amazing. So you mentioned vulnerability as being a key ingredient to optimal mental health, and just accepting that we're not whole people when we try to help others. And then you also touch on the fact that you need a core group of people to be there with you as you go through your own struggles and your own battles at college and probably beyond as well. Can you describe a moment in which, throughout your time at Vanderbilt, you had one of those moments where you needed that group of friends in order to bounce back and become stronger, and how they helped you be vulnerable?
Sure.
Yeah. I know I'm asking you to be vulnerable.
No, that's great. So I think a really distinct moment that really also kind of falls into this idea of like happiness on this campus. So it was actually a really kind of difficult interaction I had with a professor here. The class was about, you know, engaging with like the immigrant experience, which I identify as a second generation immigrant, or second generation American, to put it that way. And in this class, kind of one of the assignments was to go find an immigrant. And they were telling us to go to Nolensville Pike, which we know has a lot of people who don't speak English, who might be undocumented, and to kind of ask them, you know, about their story, and then to publicize that in a public space, in a community where sometimes people might not be as supportive to individuals who don't carry American citizenship, or who might be from a different kind of culture or ethnic background. And so for me, I felt really conflicted ethically. I didn't see it being kind of a respectful academic project, and also kind of going through the fact that we had no training to go through with this or whatnot. And so kind of had a conversation with my professor about it, and kind of the immediate response was that if I'm finding triggered immigrants who don't want to share their stories, then I'm finding the wrong ones. And that the immigrant experience isn't triggering. If it is, then there's something wrong with me. And this is me bringing up kind of my family kind of history, of saying like, you know, I understand that there's conflict here. I go through it every day, and seeing the generational differences between myself and my parents' generation who came here, and it's kind of navigating that and what that looks like. And so I was really just like kind of crushed. I think at that point, this professor also said that, you know, Vanderbilt students are predominantly happy, and so if you're not, then that problem resides with you. And all these kind of things that I think really made me internalize kind of the negativity, and also the thing that there's something wrong with me. There must be, because if this is something from a person of authority who's saying that to me, and such. And so I think kind of bouncing back up from that, I found a lot of professors on campus who were very supportive and encouraging despite that. A lot of students that were also just, you know, immediately, I think, affirming and acknowledging that this is not a you situation, Lauren, that this is something that, you know, this is like an injustice that's kind of being talked about, but it's not because of you, and it's not because of who you are, your identities. And I think that was like really encouraging, just to see fellow students, but also professors kind of give that support.
That's amazing. Well, I want to thank you for being vulnerable.
No, thank you for listening.
And I want to thank you for inspiring, you know, not just me in this brief conversation, but so many people around our campus to take their mental health more seriously, to understand that you don't have to be whole in order to help other people. just be vulnerable and to share what we're really going through,
Yeah.
to create a space to heal
Yeah.
and to become a really tight-knit community. I think it's amazing that you've made that your mission to champion, so I just want to thank you and acknowledge you
Yeah.
for that. So my last question
Mhm.
before we talk about
Sure,
who I'm going to
sure.
interview next
Sounds good.
is, what's the one piece of advice that if you could go back in time and talk to the freshman
Right,
version of you,
right.
what would you tell yourself?
I would say not to take everything too seriously, and to have
Sure.
a certain kind of degree of humor. I think at Vanderbilt, it's really easy to kind of be kind of within the bubble and not kind of seen out of it. And there's, I think, a lot of value in taking a step back and taking a breath and seeing that Vanderbilt is not the world. There's a world that exists outside of that, but it is the community that we're in right now. So how do we work towards making it a community that embraces all of us, but also kind of balancing that with like there are realities that you have neighboring communities, you have a home community, you have these different places that kind of prove that if there's heartbreak occurring on this campus, there are spaces and the world is kind of different from that, and you can have a space for kind of not escaping, but kind of having kind of a mental, I guess, break from what you might see on campus. And I would say also to kind of go towards heartbreak. I think a lot of times we try to kind of deflect or kind of avoid situations that make us feel a lot. But I think in those points of really getting into our like emotional flow, our capacity, that's when we see the most growth, and we are able to learn the most about ourselves too. And so I think really taking ownership of all the situations or stress or struggles that we go through, and really finding kind of resilience in that would be my advice.
That's awesome. You're amazing. Thank
Oh,
you
thank
so
you.
much
No, you're
for
amazing.
doing this. That was amazing. I think so many people are going to be able to reap such value from the wisdom that you're just pouring out. I love that. That was fantastic. Last question would be, who has been a major influence on you here at Vanderbilt that you think I should interview next?
Well, a lot of kind of, I think the joy that I found this year as a senior has come from people who are underclassmen. And being said that, I would say that the person I would interview would be Kelly Perry.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
she
I love
is
Kelly. She's so sweet.
a junior this year, but she has just been such an incredibly strong and empowering woman here on campus. She just has that kind of essence that really radiates. There's a lot of love. So.
That's awesome. I'm so excited to talk to her. I'm glad that you recommended her. Her heart's so big.
Right.
It's amazing. Yeah. All right. That was episode 3 of 10-Minute Motivation. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you, Lo, for taking the time to chat. You're amazing. Stay tuned for the next video where I'm going to talk to Kelly Perry, one of, I would say, the best storytellers that we have here on this campus. Someone who's so good at sharing the other point of view and really bringing someone else's story to the forefront. She's going to be amazing to talk to too.
Yeah.
This has been great.
Thank you.
Boom!